I'm a big believer in nameplates.
I love it. And we have a few extras as well. I know there's a lot of colleagues that are here.
Just save that, that's like a lot.
It's so good, it's so good.
Can I just check if our colleagues on Zoom can hear us? I know that we're joined by Study Chair 3, Andrea. Yes, wonderful. All right, good morning, everyone. We're gonna call this meeting to order. If we can please start the recording. We'll get started. If we can please start the recording, Liam. Go. Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. It is 8:46 a.m. Today's Thursday, April 16th, 2026. Welcome to our Manhattan Borough Board. Good morning. So with that, we will go straight into our roll call. Please say present when your name is announced. Tammy Meltzer.
CB1 is present, thank you.
Great. CB2. Okay. CB3.
Present.
Present online, wonderful. CB4.
Present.
Great. CB5.
Present.
CB6.
John, first vice chair for Sandy McKay.
Great. Thank you. CB7.
Present.
Good to see you, Alex. CB8. Okay. CB9.
Present.
Okay. CB10. CB11.
Present.
Great to see you, them, and great to see you, Rosa. And then CB12. All right. And I also want to acknowledge that we have Bryce here from Councilmember Maloney's office. Thank you for joining us this morning. Just going to check online to make sure there are any other representatives. Of the elections. Okay. Great. Thank you. So with that, we're going to move into the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll now also, the agenda is adopted. We'll go and, can I get a motion to adopt the March 2026 Borough Board minutes?
So moved.
That was a second by Victor?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Borough President for his report.
Thank you, Ariel. Just again, Ariel, thank you for convening us and for the amazing work you do. I think we should just introduce our team, if that's okay. Starting with Porfirio, sorry.
Hi there, Deputy Director of Community Affairs, Porfirio Figueroa. I also represent CB 11 and 12.
Community liaison for CB5, 6 and Jewish affairs, Borough Rosenberg.
And then morning, everyone. Niall Robinson, community liaison for CB9 and CB10.
And he's our new colleague.
That's right. There was a vacancy for a number of months in CB preceding back to last year. So Niles, welcome. We're so excited to have you on board.
Andrew, community liaison at Community Boards 1 and 2. John Weinberg, General Counsel.
Esther Caroline, Director of Policy.
I think you all know me, Mariel Ali, Director of Community Affairs.
And Misha Smith, Deputy Borough President.
Thank you, everyone. Just a few updates from me. One is it's budget season, as you all know. You'll hear more about the Borough President's office's response to the mayor's preliminary budget from Esther Caroline, who's done a really great job in compiling both your concerns and wishes, as well as our priorities here in the Borough President's office. So thank you, Esther, in advance. Speaking of budget, it looks like New York City is going to get upwards of $500 million more a year from the state of New York, thanks to a bill that Governor Hochul is inserting into the state budget called the pied-à-terre tax. There's a story about it in the papers today. I'm very honored to have written that bill. That's what I know. Like a decade ago. Good ideas take a long time to move forward in Albany, but it's gonna basically impose a new tax on individuals, many of them foreign, out of, non-US nationals who own second homes in New York City valued at $5 million or more. So looking for some of the specifics on that, but it's gonna be a way to fund some of our city priorities. So I'm thrilled about that. The governor called me yesterday to congratulate me and was honored that she recognized that this was an idea that we had actually germinated so many years ago. We wrote to the governor, speaking of Kathy Hochul, and the Assembly Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader about the need to release 9/11 documents. Thanks to CG1 for your efforts at the city level, we thought we would echo that call to action by Gail Brewer and Speaker Menon to see if the state would follow suit and comb their files. I know Council Member Maloney and Congresswoman Maloney and Greasy back in the day worked on that issue for many years. And so we're waiting for a response, but we think there are records around the New York State Health Department. And John Weinberg, I don't know if you have anything to say about that. You helped write the letter. Thank you very much.
Sure, of course. So obviously, the aftermath of 9/11, the state was very involved in managing the response along with the city and the federal government. To date, there's been significant reporting and documentation about what the Fed said, particularly the federal administrator Whitman, telling everyone the air was safe to breathe. We understand the state just possibly consulted as part of some of these determinations along with the city. And to date, this was the attack administration was a very different time. There was not the same spirit of transparency that there is now. We just want to know what's there. And we're very hopeful this governor will partner with us, particularly as we approach the 25th anniversary of 9/11, and with the leadership of our borough president, just bringing that needed transparency to know what the state knew and when they knew it with respect to a lot of the health effects that are now plaguing a lot of the survivors of that day.
And again, thanks to Councilmember Brewer, Congresswoman Maloney, and Community Board 1 for leading on that. Speaking of transparency, also have been in communication with Andy Byford, who is managing the redevelopment of Penn Station, around what he's actually asking the applicants who are put in bids for the request for proposals to redevelop Penn Station, what the requirements are in that RFP. We haven't seen that. It's not public. I don't know if you want, John, I keep asking you while you're eating. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
So, how are you? You may even know Penn Station transformation is ongoing. Federal government just tasked Andy Byford with working with developers to envision new ideas for Penn Station. Last year, they issued an RFI, which they did release. In response to that process, they identified 3 potential developers, big developers like Borough, to redevelop the Penn campus. As part of that process, the federal government sent only these 3 developers a very detailed document, an RFP, outlining their expectations for these 3 developers to submit bids for this project. Federal government did not release any of that information to elected officials, to the public, to the media. So these 3 developers are working with a framework, with a guideline for what this project will look like, what they should be saying in their bids, but not telling anyone else. And we have asked the Amtrak, to release this information in other RFPs that Amtrak has issued. They have made this document public on the same terms they've made it public to the 3 bidders. Amtrak is being resistant. They have opaquely referred to federal regulations, saying they preclude them. The borough president sent an initial strong letter to Amtrak saying, this is what you told us, this is what we understand the law is. Tell us what your basis is for not releasing this information to us, the same terms you released it to all 3 developers. Amtrak has since responded and demurred without much detail over ongoing in this dialogue, but the borough president is again pushing for the public and elected officials in the media to understand what these developers are being told and when they're being told it, and how we can know this massive project that fundamentally alter Penn Station, what those terms are these developers are working for.
Thank you, as well as the public realm, which I know touches on a number of community boards. And we're having a meeting Andy Byford next week. He's a very charming individual, so hopefully we can get some answers out of him. Later today, we're going to be joining, I think, CB9 and the Morningside Heights Coalition, as well as Councilmember Abreu and others, demanding that Columbia University reopen the 116th passageway at College Walk. It's called to the public. This has been an ongoing issue since the protests around Gaza first began, but we think it's time for them to reopen that walk. And then I wanted to mention that and thank our Deputy Borough President for organizing our event around Women's History Month called Making Manhattan. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about what was.
Well, I think it was an opportunity for us to highlight some women-owned small businesses and gave them an opportunity to share some insights that they have, some best practices, some encouragement to each other. And it was actually, I think, a very moving, beautiful event where we saw a lot of people connect and say, it can be hard. And for us to also hear Brad and I both feedback on what would be helping small businesses, which is something that we very much plan on concentrating on. And we had a very productive meeting with SBS yesterday to give some of that feedback and set up some channel, some convening, some information sharing. So we're looking forward to that. And we'll be updating all of you about some of that small business navigator work that we'll be doing in the coming weeks. So it's great.
Thank you. And another CD1 issue is the fence at Battery Park. Thank you, CD1, for your advocacy there. We joined them and calling for that to be taken down and rebuilt in a way that allows New Yorkers and visitors to actually see the Statue of Liberty without looking through a chicken wire, as I call it. We relaunched our volunteer corps, and we'll be sharing how your constituents can sign up for that. One of the emphases is Big Apple Greeter, which is actually house just one floor up from here. And it's that neighborhood to tourist connection that was begun by one of my predecessors, Ruth Messenger. And with FIFA coming around the corner, more New Yorkers who want to volunteer for Big Apple Greeters, it's called, would be really cool. So stay tuned for more information on how you can get your neighborhood residents to sign up for a volunteer corps. You're going to hear more this morning about our community board appointment process and the good government groups that we've engaged to strengthen transparency and independence in the process. My office is continued to be involved in re-erecting the pride flag in CB2. And I testified a CB4 issue to the Gateway Development Commission last month on behalf of our colleagues, including Congressman Nadler, in person. That was, I think, helpful to make the point that Gateway is a $19.6 billion regional economic activation program and desperately needs to keep funding flowing. And we're with the DOT Commissioner, Glenn, and the mayor around the redesign of the exit ramp here at the Brooklyn Bridge. I attended a rental ripoff hearing, the one that was in CB9 last week. And we are also celebrating the fact that the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, is constructing the city's first free on-site childcare pilot program here at 1 Central Street. And then finally, we had another immigration convening with advocates and elected officials on what our community response should be at the borough level to restrictions around immigration and undocumented individuals, particularly NYCHA and Section 8 housing, which is a great concern that there is a new federal rule that may terminate assistance for tens of thousands of mixed status households in public housing. We're encouraging our boards and elected officials in Manhattan to testify, to send testimony to HUD. Anything you want to say about that, Esther?
Yeah, I think you all should have
Will receive.
will receive apologies. A draft comment that really all you have to do is switch the words for a, actually, I think we outlined exactly where you should fill in your community board. You can replicate it directly and it will come with instructions about how to submit online to HUD your comment on this regulation. What I'll note is we've been meeting with a lot of advocates, with NYCHA, with other folks on like what this rule will mean and what are the best tools that we have to prevent it. It's going to be an uphill battle, but one thing that does help is volume of comments. So not just the quality of the comment, but the volume of the comments itself, because HUD has an obligation to respond individually to each comment and each item in each comment. Now, we've heard that they use AI to do this, which is speeding up the process pretty significantly, but as much detail or specific objection that you include, they have an obligation to respond. So it's something that has held up this rulemaking process in past years. We're hopeful it does the same this time. It's going to be more of an uphill battle since they're more obsessively focused on really making every arm of the federal government an arm of immigration enforcement. But that's where we are. So encourage all to submit accordingly.
Thank you, CB9, for sponsoring that health fair last week.
Yeah.
Pretty cool to get the health commissioner there. And speak about important issues like diabetes and vaccines. And I'm really impressed by the start of his new administration. And I'll be hiking in Inwood Hill Park this weekend with my little brownie. My daughter, age 9, is taking a hike there. And I'm interested to know, and I've been reaching out very preliminarily, discussions on how we might protect that old growth forest, which is a treasure for the borough. Trees that are hundreds of years old here in Manhattan, but are endangered by brush fires, as we saw in the last year. So we need to work with parks on a strategy to protect that forest. That's my report.
Wonderful. Thank you, President. Just want to acknowledge a couple of colleagues that have joined us since the start of the meeting. Would like to welcome CB12 Chair, Anthony, good to see you. CB10 Chair Marquise, good to see you. We've also been joined by representatives from Councilmember Encarnacion's office. Thank you for being here. And I know that we have a representative from Councilmember De La Rosa's office. I'm also just now seeing that we've been joined by CB2. Valerie De La Rosa online. So thank you for being here. We'll just open it up for questions.
Sure. Anyone has any questions for me? If not, we can move the agenda.
And I'll say everyone should have received, this is our letter to the Columbia acting president, speaking to what Brad had spoken about earlier, asking for the gates to be opened.
And we've also sent one to the incoming president.
We will send one as she takes her post.
Great. Not seeing any questions. I guess maybe just one final thing to share with everyone here. Thank you for your input regarding the your support that you may have received in regards to land use and urban planning. We have taken that feedback. We'll be looking into that and finding ways that we can continue to support all of our community boards. I know that's a really big concern regarding, land use expertise. And so thank you, and we'll be in touch shortly with more on that. With that, we'll move the agenda as we do not have any council members in person today. We'll move the agenda to the update on the Manhattan Borough President's Office recommendations for modifications to the mayor's preliminary budget. You should all have a hard copy in front of you. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Esther.
Hi, everyone. It's quite a wordy title, but it comes straight from the charter. This is our obligation to submit modifications to the mayor's preliminary budget. This is the first of two responses that we will submit, this one to the preliminary budget, then the mayor will submit his executive budget after the city council has submitted their own response to the preliminary budget. Once that happens, we will submit the second of our responses, which will be responsive to the changes that hopefully will reflect some of what we put in our borough board response, some of what was in the city council response, and the various borough president's responses. So obviously, we all know there is a fiscal crisis for New York City this year. There are a lot of different avenues to fill that gap. We focused in our response in appealing to Albany, which holds probably the largest lever to fill this gap. Various state cost shifting expenses that cost the city billions and billions of dollars, different potential tax revenue increases. Brad spoke about one that we're very glad to see passed. There are smaller ones, there are larger ones. All together, what needs to happen is Albany needs to step in and fill $5.4 billion. There are various ways they can do that. And the city provides quite a bit more than it receives in revenue to the state. And the city is also an economic boom for the state. So it would be unfortunate if the state, which is not facing a fiscal crisis presently, did not step in to support. So the ways to fill this $5.4 billion budget, some of it is in progressive tax revenues, as we discussed. Some of it is in AIM funding, which is funding for various cities that New York City was cut out of some years ago and would offer several $100 million a year and would have been several billion if it had not been cut up to this year, accounting for inflation. And there are some interesting property tax exemptions. If you all were here for the IBO presentation last month, you would have seen that MSG is exempted from certain property taxes, which is remarkable. We spoke about that in our response. And then outside of our suggestions for how to fill the gap, we also spoke about the various priorities that we believe face Manhattanites in the coming fiscal year. So the first of those is affordable housing. We want to make sure there is a sufficient capital fund through HPD, which lost some of its capital funds this year. We want to make sure that DCP and HPD are sufficiently staffed and funded to implement these capital plans and all of the new affordable housing pipelines. And we want to make sure that NYCHA has the appropriate staffing and a regular capital line, which would have to go through the state to make sure that it's buoyed against the federal cuts and the various expenses that are building in our NYCHA developments. We also spoke a lot about behavioral health and homelessness, which has been a big focus, I know, of the community boards and of our office. There are, as you all are familiar with, several different types of teams and stabilization beds and crisis respite beds and crisis homes that are all various models aimed at helping different portions of the population. We have found in conversation with providers and with the city that these various models sometimes will overlap in their catchment areas, will not share data between each other, and will end up having some of the same touches with the same individuals, in effect duplicating services at a time when we have pretty limited fiscal bandwidth and limited service bandwidth. It's really important that we're optimizing how those services reach the people in need. So we spoke about that a bit. We also outlined a few specific services that we think are most effective, especially stabilization beds and the sort, in helping folks who are discharged from hospital straight into homelessness sustain themselves. We spoke about parks and climate. We want parks, climate, and libraries, all of which are typically not baseline. The mayor will wait for the city council to come in and replace the funds that are ostensibly cut from the last year. We want these to be baselined. It's not a steady process to have several $100 million suddenly disappear from the budget each year and wait for the city council to come back in. So we asked for these to be baselined. We spoke about the need for increased immigration funding, and then some things that you all have heard about a lot before from this office, commercial rent tax reform. I'll say we speak about it here, you all have heard us, but a quick update is that the IBO, which we sent a letter to, asking them to look into the impact of the commercial rent tax on the Manhattan corridors, is actively researching this, has shared some progress, and we're hopeful to have real data soon on what the exact impact is. We spoke about the need for formula-based funding for community boards. We want to index salaries and budgets to inflation via a COLA, expand OTI support capacity. This is a big one. You all have one person in OTI who is responsible for all of the community board's tech support. That is obviously and deeply insufficient.
Yes.
So we asked for more, and we'll be following up on this especially. And we asked for there to be a revision of the borough capital allocation.
This is crazy.
Yeah, you wanna?
No, you describe it.
Okay.
We're getting ripped off.
There's a funding formula in the charter that absent city council legislation.
Or a
Makes
charter
it-
revision.
Or a charter revision, that's right, makes it so that the funding formula is based on geography and daytime population. However, Manhattan, as we all know, has a significant nighttime population. Sorry, I flipped those. It's based on nighttime population and geography. Manhattan, as we know, has a significant daytime population, folks coming in to work in the various service industries and the arts industries. We have all sorts of really important infrastructure, arts centers, resource provision that goes to other boroughs that is not accounted for in this allocation. So this is
Healthcare services, addiction centers, youth homeless outreach efforts.
And these are services that we're expected to fund through our capital allocations. So in practice, this is a disservice to the entire city, not just to Manhattan, because these services that are for Manhattanites and for members of the other 4 boroughs are underfunded because of this funding formula.
So the result is, if I could just interrupt.
Yeah.
Basically, our office gets effectively the same amount of money as Staten Island. And meanwhile, our colleagues in Queens and Brooklyn get almost twice as much.
So
Ain't
we
fair.
don't love it.
We're cool about it.
We outlined it in our budget response, but I'll note this is also something we've spoken to IBO about, and we're expecting a more significant report on what the exact impact is. And we will be sharing that with you all as it comes through. I touched on some of the things we talked about. There are, I think, 19 categories in here, each with subcategories, so I encourage you to browse. A lot of it is reflective of the conversation that we had last month, which went into our borough board response. Many of those discussions are in here. A few are not, because they actually were in the mayor's budget. So for example, funding for Legionnaires was in the mayor's preliminary budget. We were happy to see, and we'll be making sure that that's implemented, and some other items. So please reach out with any questions.
Wonderful, thank you,
And
Esther.
Esther was working up until the submission date.
I'll open up the floor, thank you, Esther. I'll open up the floor for any questions for Esther. Nope, not seeing any, so we will move
I
on.
do have one.
Sure.
I may have missed it. Was there anything put in, or maybe the mayor put it in about I think we voted on it, the oversight into the management companies that are doing the Rat Pack?
So actually the mayor did put in money for Rad Pact. It hasn't been outlined specifically as oversight of the management companies, because typically that detail is not included in the preliminary budget. We're hopeful it does include some of that function, but we're following up on that through various streams.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. So now we will move on to a presentation on the community board appointment process. I know you've all been waiting. So I will talk you through what our process has been like this year, but also the important touch points with all of you. And so with that, we'll go to the next slide, please. All right. So this year, Applications went live Friday, January 16th, and they closed Friday, March 6th. Our office did outreach via newsletter, social media, and community networks. I think, the important reminder is that obviously we came in January 1st and it was to hit the ground running. And so with that, I think it's really exciting to hear that we received approximately 800 applications across the borough for about 323 appointments. I did see your tear, Rosa, so I do think it's a CB11, but others, I think, and we can talk about this, once it's time for next year. But thinking about how we can work together for more outreach and really, work with community-based organizations and partners. And you all, I know a number of you, CB12 and a couple of others, did do information sessions and all of that to really get the word out and encourage applications. Next. All right, so we received all of these applications. Our team, the amazing liaisons that work with you all, and myself, we read those applications, right? We also, as you know, we did have initial discussions with each of your community boards and your district managers to discuss rosters and CB needs. So one of the things that the office takes into consideration, as you know, is attendance, participation of current members, but also thinking about what are the needs of the community board, right? Are there particular, profession gaps that are missing? Whether it's, teachers to get that perspective. So those are all things that we have done.
And Councilmember Brewer has emphasized.
Yep.
And reemphasized how important attendance is, and I know that's a top consideration for you as chairs, because it sometimes is hard to make quorum, and that's unacceptable.
Exactly. And so on that, today.
So we need to figure out, is it a 3 strikes policy? Is it a 2 strikes policy? I don't know.
We will certainly figure that out. And so we will, so yes, I do know that obviously every CB has bylaws, but we will be reaching out to you today or tomorrow to request full attendance for all members. So that we can take that into consideration as appointments are being made. So stay tuned for that. I know there's a couple of district managers on the line as well. Next slide. All right, so we are very excited to say that, before I kind of come to this in a minute, I realize that all of you are probably experienced in previous appointment processes. By now, you would have probably had a group interview. We're changing things up a little bit, and we're introducing an independent panel on community board appointments. It's part of our commitment to increase transparency. It's part of our commitment to strengthen community trust. Part of our commitment to really ensure accountability. And I think you all have expressed to us, particularly with term limits coming up next year, the importance of really ensuring that appointments are, members of communities that will show up to meetings, they'll be accountable, and that really are dedicated to civic life. And so we've been in partnership with the Fund for the City of New York. I actually counted last night, we conducted outreach to 119 good government and civic-minded organizations across Manhattan to support the community board appointment process. 19, that was the list. So a really big shout out to the Fund for the City of New York and their support. Out of those 119, and I'll show you momentarily, we then launched this independent panel to read these applications, to provide both a second and a third read. So each application that we've received will have 3 reads. And I think the really important part is that the independent panel, we've actually stripped all the applications from all PII. So we've removed names, we've removed addresses, anything that may possibly include bias, right? And so that has all been done. And so they're currently reviewing these applications. Through this, we've identified 60 readers across 40 organizations to support in this process. Next slide. Okay, this is a screenshot of some of the organizations that are participating in this process. I will say again, because we did reach out to 119, many are continuing to reach out and say, hey, we still want to be a part of this process. We will create an opportunity and a space for them to do so during the group interview process, which I'll speak to in a moment. So these are some of the groups. You may recognize a lot of them. I think what's really exciting about this is that we have really big groups like the New York League of Conservation Voters, but we also have really small groups, right, that really understand the dynamics of local communities like NIMIC, right? They really understand Uptown Manhattan. And I think that's incredibly important. Next, I'll take questions in a minute.
What's wrong? Question?
Go ahead with,
I'll take questions.
I just think it's a lot overkill. I mean, we could talk about it, but.
So these organizations, through this process, again, we are using these scores from each of the, for each applicant, in addition to the input that you've given us, attendance needs, really taking into consideration, for example, geographic representation across community boards as well. I do know that some of you have shared, hey, we're kind of missing people from this part of our area. Really important to get those perspectives as well, and those are all things that will be taken into consideration. Shortlisted applicants will be invited to virtual group interviews at the end of April, so that's when you should expect to hear information about this. We have already done a touch with all applicants in March. We will do a second touch probably tomorrow, just reminding them that they're still being considered, and an update will be provided as by the end of the month. Again, virtual group interviews will take a similar format to previous years, and will include reviewers from this independent panel. We are looking to make appointment decisions in May, so more on that. Next slide. And so this is just kind of a bit of a timeline, again, as we discussed. So again, we opened the portal mid-January to early March. We've updated, our CB applicants in March. Right now, this is where we're at, right? Mid-March, mid-April, the launch of the independent panel. They're doing what they need to do. Then we have, all of April is what will happen. We're shortlisting. In April, that's when our team will also then reach out again to community boards to get your feedback. The other part of it is to confirm rosters, because we know there have been a couple of changes since that initial discussion in January. So we really want to make sure that we have the right number of vacancies. So please, as you do, continue to inform our team as soon as, someone resigns, someone steps down, any of those changes, because we need to have that information to be able to make the appointments. Virtual group interviews, again, end of April, early May. We'll go ahead and meet with community boards again for some input. And then again, decision letters mid to late May. Next. Okay, so yeah, we can go back. We can leave it on the timeline. Dawn, thank you. Sorry, I thought there was another slide there. And with that, I will pause. I just want to see if, Borough President.
Any questions?
Or happy to take
Any questions?
from members.
Concerns? Did you have one?
Okay, so
No, Tammy, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Tammy.
Couple of questions on this. Looking at the list, some of the things, the charter mandate role of the community board, and we talk about this a lot, is to represent your district and to have contextuality of the people in your district. While we do support each other around the thing, the goal is we find commonalities, but that serve our district. So if Rosa came to me and said, hey, listen, I need you to support this, I can bring it to my board to vote on, but if it's solely in her area, that's not mine to comment back. My concern is with the panel is I quickly scanned it. There weren't a ton, but there's not a lot of contextuality in there. They're broad-based things, which is lovely and great, but that's not actually what we do as a charter role. That's what we bring together for this table and for the borough president. So I, quickly scanned going, okay, well, how many of those are actually within my CB to understand the contextual differences between what works in 1 versus 11 versus 9. So I have a concern about that, which I wanted to bring up. And are they looking at new applications and renewals? Because the problem that I have with the renewals is without having known that to start with, the people who are renewing and they are basing a lot of their shortness, shall we say, on the application because they have it's like any job. They have a job performance, they have job history, they have roles that they have fulfilled, they have different leadership roles in the community. They sit on different boards. None of that was actually, if I think people knew that that was the way this was going to be as a different process, perhaps we should have attached something that allowed them to be able to fulfill that information.
There are questions to that effect.
But we didn't know, no one on my board knew that it was 100% different process. We didn't know. So I would gather and guess that they assumed that.
Well, it's a different process under every borough president. And, we could just have a highly politicized process where, it's just up to me to pick whoever. But I think the broader community wants input from more than just voices that have been routine and at the table, but we'll certainly consider the performance of board members. And I think Councilmember Brewer's point about attendance is one, very undeniable aspect of that kind of review.
I think also I think the point that you made about the concentration of what's happening in your specific community board is incredibly important. And I think one of the things that we've thought about this whole process is that we've added in this new independent review board, but we're not taking away from the input that we rely on from each community board, especially from chairs and district managers, to give us that feedback on, I need this person back there in the middle of this process. And that's something that we're going to be taking into consideration along with the independent review board's weight, understanding that they don't know that, right? And so I think in moments when that will come to head, if we're seeing that sort of, and we don't know that we will, but if we see for specific applicants that there is that sort of loggerhead, I think especially for reapplicants, I think that the community board's input on that applicant is gonna be very.
And frankly, someone who fills out a job application and thinks, I already have the job and I'm just putting down a few, sentences, well, that's not seriousness, in my opinion. But I will say that, this is not the first time this has been done.
Yeah.
Scott Stringer had a very similar process. And I was a community board chair at the time, and it worked extremely well. So as we head toward the initiation of term limits, this is something of an experiment, I'm not going to deny. As we head toward term limits, though, to do this year, I think is a very good kind of dry run for when really, the turnover next year is going to be enormous. So we're really trying to lay the framework. We may make some mistakes. I'm not going to say that this process is going to be perfect, but I think it's better than just having me sit in a room and call the shots, without any input from a lot of community organizations that have a stake in our community boards.
And if I may add, sorry, just on that, and then certainly welcome your last point. Thank you both. The other thing to take into consider, one, I want to emphasize the point that, our deputy borough president said, we are not removing the CB engagement component. Obviously, there are several touch points that we will continue to have with you, as has been done in previous years, and that will not be removed or taken away. If anything, I think we're probably doing more than what has been done in previous years. So that's one. And then the second thing is, again, the independent panel, the questions that we're asking them to in terms of reviewing the applications are around, does this applicant, based off of what they provided or in their application, does this person look civically minded? Is this, those are the types of questions, not necessarily, do they know about CB1, CB2, CB3, right? We're coming at it from, is this an applicant that would, attend meetings? Is this an applicant that shows a record of civic engagement, even if it's not on the community board? Maybe they're engaged in other spaces, right? And so it's a holistic approach that we're taking. I know you have a final point, and then
Which is gonna lean perfectly into that.
Mhm.
We love having youth. It's an important
Mhm.
component. The way it currently structures doesn't work well for the youth nor the board process. So they're allowed to apply when they're 16. Right? Obviously, if we looked at it a little bit more like schools, right, where your birth date is before a certain date, you could come in because you're going to be turning 16 or voting even for, let's say. We're not getting as many high school students that are sophomores that apply, that come on in April and can really be then through their whole junior year really productive on a board, like learning during sophomore, productive. Once they hit senior year, their eyes are beyond. And if they are choosing to go to a higher level of education, their deadlines don't meet with what the community board world is like.
Yeah.
So it's from, I have 2 kids graduating high school this year, so I mean, having gone through this, yeah. So, hopefully, so their focus has to be for their exams, their high school stuff,
That's a really good
getting out. It doesn't necessarily work. I don't know where we need to make the reform, but we really want the youth to be engaged. And then they disappear
Yeah.
and they don't
And-
come back.
And frankly, I know we have that issue with young professionals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And, and that's something that we hope that, again, the application is just one, the paper application is just one component.
Yeah.
And maybe, what would you say, a third of the consideration and what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
Again,
it's one component, but we want to take it seriously. And we hope that people, when they filled out their applications, took this seriously because, I mean, this is an important responsibility, so.
So if for some way we can figure out, and I'm happy to help strategize with everybody around the table to get that component for that voice in, I think it's,
Okay,
and
it's a great suggestion.
in particular, because of the way that the city operates with PEP and CEC and siloing, it takes some of the youth and education out of the greater mirror.
Mhm.
And it's very frustrating because it feels like an insular system that they can't talk to anybody.
Right.
So that's what I'm hearing, and I'm hoping that you can adjust.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I'm taking notes, and as the borough president said, this is our first go around, so to speak. And so we are already thinking of things to do for the next cycle. We haven't even issued appointment letters already, but it's already kind of, the list is growing. I did see Leslie, and then I also want to acknowledge, I think, Victor, you also have a hand, correct? Okay, so Leslie, Victor, and then Adem, if we can keep our points succinct, just ensure I'll come to the online hands momentarily, but if we can keep our points succinct to ensure everyone has a chance to speak.
Thank you. I want to echo what Tammy said. I think that the spirit of community boards is grassroots. Right? And it's like knowing what the people in the community and what they're doing. When I saw that list of all the people that you were consulting with, it almost smacked me in the face like a frying pan. It just seemed like a very, very big, bulky way of sterilizing the process to me a little bit. It was a little bit of sterilizing the process. I remember when I got on, I know Gail Brewer put me on, and she was very, I thought, like, not looking at anyone's personal, like what your view was necessarily anything, or what group you belong to. It was, did you kind of work in the community? Were you active in the community? Did you attend meetings? Not necessarily community board, but block association. And I think this is kind of tilting towards that special interest, more away from that community on the ground gardener or something and not necessarily,
Well,
anyway. I just think the procurement, everyone is, no, I'm not saying it's bad. I think this is from a good place, for sure. It's like kind of checks and balances, right? For sure.
Yeah.
But I think to make the procurement process bulkier is, I think what I mean, I could see both sides. I can see both sides,
Yeah,
for
well,
sure.
the idea is that, a fresh set of eyes,
Yeah.
right? From people, advocates, social services groups, and, we made very clear, we're very certain not to have certain groups that might have biases that could raise concerns that we've heard in previous administrations, as part of this review. And we think that the more eyes on these applications, the better. Understanding that Mariel did a lot of work, and so did the deputy borough president, getting all these groups engaged. But at the end of the day, we want a credible process that isn't just politicized, because your effectiveness, your credibility really depends on who the members are and how they were chosen. So I want boards to be more credible and not full of, neighborhood biases that, frankly, when it gets to the city commission level, a lot of community boards are discounted for that very reason. And so this is the spirit of trying to have a selection process that will hopefully result in city administrative responses being more thorough and taking you more seriously, but I hear you. So that's something we have to be watchful as we as we move into the next step.
But you can, I mean, I understand, but you can see where it might look at first, I mean, it's a process, where it might look like it's going more professional, than community-based, it's a little more.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm not saying it's that, I'm just saying.
I think, I don't think that's gonna be the case, but I guess we will see how it
Yeah,
works.
how it works.
Exactly.
Appreciate your feedback. I think the other thing, again, as a reminder, all applications have been anonymized. There's no PII, it's been completely stripped. Each application is getting 2 reads from people from different organizations. And so literally it's been reader 1, applications 541, 13, that's literally what it's been. And so to be able to find ways to eliminate kind of those biases from creeping in, so we've certainly, but I really appreciate your feedback.
Thanks.
Sure. Bradley, Victor, Adam.
I have 2 questions. One, for the independent panel, I think you said the written is a third of your score.
Mhm.
How are you considering the written panel in terms of weighting it against
So-
the overall?
Sorry?
So you just said the written application is, roughly about a third of the consideration for
Mm-hmm.
it. What percentage is the independent panel?
They're part of that, right? Because
They're
we're
part of the third?
correct, because remember, we're getting 3 scores for each application. In addition to all of your feedback that we've had, right? So again, things about, participation in meetings, things about, what have they been doing? All of these considerations will be taken into account as we review these applications.
So I wouldn't say, I think to your point, this isn't an algorithm, right? We're not saying 60% independent review board, 20% CAU review, 10% council member, 10% Brad, right? It's not that. It's looking at all of these inputs and creating more input points, I think is really our key. And then being able to ensure that we're taking in your feedback on what your independent community boards need. So if CB9 needs more public school parents, we're gonna weigh everything differently about that feedback into CB9's application. So it's not this like structured 10% is this, 10% is that. It's a much more just like we're taking in as many endpoint points as possible to make a decision that feels like we're filling the needs of the board and being very public and transparent about it's not just our favorite people.
Great, thank you. And then my other question was, the meeting in May, what are you looking for from us in that meeting? Different than the meeting.
That feedback.
What that is.
But I think we're looking for attendance feedback, certainly, and I think
Yep.
we're also looking for, we need, with what we have right now, vacancies included. We don't have anyone who is not a college educated person, right? Like that matters to us. We don't have anybody who is a teacher, we don't have anybody that has a master's degree in something, right? Whatever you all think is valuable there, that's where we want to hear, or we need it, we want it now, but we need it by that.
Like specific.
Specific roles to fill and things that you would prefer to have, thinking forward on what your independent board is gonna be doing in the next 2 years.
And to add on to that, we did have that initial conversation in January, but again, as kind of vacancies thing, as the process goes on, we want to continually hear from you for that feedback. The other thing that I want to flag as well, again, we reached out to 119 organizations, only 40 responded. And so as we think about, the process in the future, certainly welcome your feedback or thoughts on, are there maybe organizations we should consider for future iterations of this process? So again, this is meant to be a collaboration and really appreciate everyone's input. Victor?
Yes, I agree with a lot that has been said. And one of the things that caught my ear was not going too professional.
Mhm.
And keeping it grassroots. We need the people who are out there in the
Yes.
neighborhood who often let me know what's happening.
Mhm.
So just something to keep in mind. And some way to draw more youth into the process.
Yeah.
We had 1 high school student over the last 3 years. We had 2 college students that's it. So just some way to draw them in and make exceptions in some cases for that. And thirdly, my initial point was attendance. We lose so many people for attendance. I remember one of our first meetings this term, meeting ended at like 9 o'clock and said, wow, they know it's gonna be this long. It's like, you haven't been there for a long meeting. So it's just, I don't have that much time. Well, the best I can, but just to make them aware that meetings and committee meetings sometimes run longer. That that's what you signed up for. And then some just don't come. I call them personally, said, this is a chair calling. Can you call me back? It's like, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just respect, we hear you, just both.
Exactly.
We hear you.
Yes.
No, thank you, Victor. A couple of things. On youth, since I know Tammy, you also brought this up. When I first joined CB 12 in 2020, actually, there was a young person who also was a high school student. And her feedback was exactly that, that the meetings are very long, it's very hard to engage. And unfortunately, she, wasn't unable to last very long. But again, as we think about the process moving forward, maybe it's more outreach from our office and you all with your support to our community education councils, right? To help get the word out, working closely with superintendents and, identifying high schools in our neighborhood to say, look, this is a great opportunity for young people to get involved, all of those things. Certainly welcome your feedback. Your point on attendance, again, we'll be asking for those rosters and getting your feedback on that. So certainly heard on that.
Great.
Adem and then Anthony.
There might be a reason why it doesn't happen, and I know we're being included a lot in the process, but was there any consideration or could there be that we could see like the district managers and the chairs, these written applications anonymously as well? I know we've been asked what we're looking for and what we need, but it might be helpful for us to at least have some input or weight on how we view these
It's
applications.
something we'd consider.
We can consider.
The wrinkle is some chairs are applying too.
Right.
We don't have to see, yeah, that's, I hear you.
Exactly.
But
Be careful.
Yeah.
the fundamental question is like,
I didn't get reappointed.
we're trying to improve. I got a sense, and I think Bisha and Marielle got a sense that the process hasn't been so great.
Oh.
I got a sense, it could be improved, it could be improved.
It's been different under different leaders.
Just for a blip,
I've
just for a
been
blip.
through.
So we really try to take the best of the last three kind of administrations. Beginning with stringers. Getting input from Councilmember Brewer and Controller Levine. And so we're trying to figure out, this is really a trial run for next year, when the shit hits the fan.
I think Valerie De La Rosa.
Yeah, I'm gonna acknowledge Valerie after we finish with our hands in the room. Anthony, Marquise, and then online.
I have two questions. The first with that independent panel, I noticed that EY was on that. Curious about the thought behind having such a big company.
Which company?
EY, Ernst and Young.
Young is on it?
Yeah. Is the thinking having like some kind of independent audit function, or was there some other
No,
element?
these are groups that have an aspect to them. EY is a large organization. They have community
Oh, I see.
groups that they work with. So it wasn't like we went to Ernst and Young's
Okay.
like accounting department.
Yeah.
And said, give us accountants to read. They
Yeah.
wouldn't do that.
Sure.
But instead it's some of these community-based parts of their groups that are doing very helpful work in communities. They are helping small business owners. They understand that aspect of what those small business owners are coming to them, asking for. Those are the people that we reached out to in
That
those
makes
groups.
sense.
So it's not just the functionalities of some of these groups is also really interesting, right? Like we have some people from NIPERG reading.
Mhm.
A lot of people associate NIPERG with Albany only and lobbying. They do a ton of work with college students
I
throughout
know.
Manhattan.
I was the vice chair of
Like,
NIPERG for.
yeah, so
2 years.
you know, like I think a lot of people see NIPERG and they think,
Yeah,
oh, what, these are lobbyists for Albany.
Yeah.
And that's not the
No.
function they're serving or the people in their organization that we're. But that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
My other question relates to the group interviews. And maybe this is also a point of feedback, but I do find that having the interviews be both new applicants and reapplicants is challenging because I just had very different experiences. And when I reapplied for the first time and went into the group interview, it's harder to express a voice and be like really active as a reapplicant, because you want to give the ability of new applicants
Yeah.
to really voice and in such a short duration of time. At the same time, on that same token, you don't want to scare them as a person who's already on the, like, I can imagine like the chair of the community board in a breakout group with someone who's applying for the first time can be a bit daunting, so.
Yeah, I was very silent in mine too on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I felt I
Yeah.
didn't want any new people.
So you think like
Maybe have those,
grouping them by applicants versus,
right,
yeah.
I mean, if the weight is gonna be the same, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's a very smart.
Because
Something to think about.
the new applicants could get, right.
Yeah, all drowned out
Drowned out by the
or
veterans.
On the other hand, I found it.
Sorry, Tammy, I do wanna respect that there's other
Go ahead,
ones up.
let
Okay,
Tammy.
go ahead and then we'll.
It was a good way to draw people out, having had the experience of being on a board. It was a good way. I found myself trying to draw the quieter people in the room out, and unfortunately doing the role that I do.
Yeah.
But it helped actually show some things that I don't think would have been seen during the process otherwise.
No, thank you, and then we'll certainly take all of these points into consideration. I just wanted to circle back really quickly on a point that Victor made in terms of that I forgot to respond on. Really ensuring that applicants understand the time commitment that it takes to be on a board. We've put it on the application several times. You may recall, for those of you who reapplied, there's like 5 different certification statements rather than just one. It will continue to be stressed, and we were saying minimum 16 hours a month, 16 to 24 hours, right? Full board, committees, time to read, your information packets, all of those things. So I did just want to acknowledge that. Marquise?
Just quick, I guess one question is, because we've heard about this process, where are the city council members involved in this, and where are they getting that feedback? Because, I kind of wanted to know about that. Second thing was, I like the idea, maybe I'm not necessarily supportive of the chair and just the district manager, but maybe committees within boards, reviewing some of the applicants. And the reason why I say that is because I think that the feedback from the board is actually, what everyone's saying in regards to grassroots and kind of understanding the board. Again, leaving names out, leaving all that information, but just the basic questions, maybe each board can have a committee that that is not members who are not up for reappointment at that year. And kind of just give some feedback ratings, independently. Because I think that might be better feedback than even some of the independent groups that have. Because what I know to say with someone.
Mark, do you think the best entity or person to do that is the district manager? I'm just asking because you get into the issue of people who are also being appointed, and so how does that work? But I appreciate your point.
Yeah, it was just to meet because that was some of the feedback, and I thought, why not maybe have a committee within the board? Because I trust my board members, even though we all may differ. I feel like they can still be, again, without names, without certain affiliations, understanding. They could probably just look at who's, what they know what the board needs and kind of see all those things. The other thing was to what some people were saying, one thing that I've encouraged this year, we're starting, and hopefully it will amount to something, is that in the fall, we plan to launch a youth advisory group. And so we're tapping into, because we have no youth members, but we're tapping into schools and certain youth organizations to get just a group of kids that we're going to meet with and get information from, so that we can at least have that voice represented, even if we don't have them as official members now. And the last thing I will say is that I've been appointed since Scott Stringer. I appreciated his process. Now, the process has changed every borough president. And I felt the most comfortable with his process. Now, I didn't know about the independent group, but I do appreciate his interview process, which was actually one-on-one. I thought that was more thorough, and I think the group interviews, when I sat in those group interviews, I always thought this is too much. It's like Game of Thrones, people are like, I really felt crazy. It doesn't make everyone comfortable. You don't see everyone
I don't disagree.
But there were usually 2 people in the interview.
It was
2-on-1. Yeah, 2-on-1. And I thought that was best. I always felt like that was most comfortable.
I think it's a very strong point.
Yeah.
It's something we may adjust in future years.
Yeah, so just something, I've never felt more comfortable since the first time I was appointed, each other.
Gail instituted the group
Yeah,
interview.
and it was.
And then Mark carried on, but I think it's a really strong point.
Yeah, so that's what I just want to share that, yeah.
Great, thank you. I do want to acknowledge, I think I saw two other hands.
Well, I mean, I'm
And I'll,
probably not, I didn't really get a chance to really go over that list of the groups, but. What I'm concerned of is jury bias is if you have a ton of groups that are under the rubric of good government and they all want to build tons of housing and et cetera.
Yeah.
Is there any organization like the Historic Districts Council also? Or are we then getting into ideological balancing and that's not the point?
We tried to be.
It's just that so many of the good government groups have similar.
Yeah.
Positions on a wide variety of actual issues as well.
As do we.
Right.
So it's like my bias or a wider net that might reflect. A greater broader interest. It's a very difficult thing to determine, like how do you cut the bias out?
Yeah.
So we thought by casting a wider net, we'll have more opinions, and that's, in my sense, a better approach than just leaving it up to, frankly, me.
Right.
We're trying to, make it more inclusive, but again, this is a working, kind of experiment on some level. That will all, and one of the things we have to do, Marielle, is after this process is get feedback for next year.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's gonna be, might be a little bumpy. I'm not gonna deny it.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll take Valerie as the last hand on this topic and then we'll move on. But I did just want to acknowledge your question about the city council members in terms of how they're engaged in this process. So they've been briefed about the process. They are aware. We met with their offices and that conversation is ongoing. As you all know, city council members make recommendations for the appointments. And so our office continues to have those engagements with their offices on that. Valerie, and then we'll move on to the next agenda item.
Thanks. Mine's just, I think, a simple question. I just want to know what are the three scores? There's three scores, and so 1/3 is the written, and then what are the other two? It just wasn't clear from that slide. Maybe it was slide 10.
Sure.
The shortlisting process slide. So I just want to know, I'm sorry if I missed that part.
No. Good question. Dawn, could we go back? I think it's the one right before this one. And just as, again, it's not, I know it's kind of been painted as like a third, but again, it's a holistic thing that we're looking at, right? And so the three scores, one score that's being taken into consideration is the CAU score. Because we have also read all the applications.
The CAU score, what CAU?
So the office's score.
Okay.
Not the mayor's, not the assistant.
Yes, exactly. That's very clear. It's the Manhattan Borough President's office. Yes. To be very clear, it's the Borough President's Community Affairs Unit.
Got it.
That's one score, and then the other two scores are anonymized, all of those things, and then those two scores are from the independent panel readers.
So 2 scores for the independent, like 2 individuals from the panel would score?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Perfect. That's all I needed. Thanks.
Not a worry. Thank you.
At the end of the day, the Borough President's office is making these appointments. We just want more inputs to make that decision. That's really what it boils down to. It's my charter responsibility to do it, but I want the widest net possible to understand your needs and build credibility among the boards so that the real goal here, as I said, is that the city administration takes your decisions and opinions seriously and doesn't disregard them and throw them in the trash can as soon as you send a letter or a resolution, which sadly happens all too often because I've witnessed it.
Thank you, everyone, for that discussion. Again, this is an ongoing conversation. So with that, Dawn, if we can move to the slide that says discussion on term limits. Great.
And this is the specter that we're all waiting for.
It's more than other.
So thank you. We wanted just to kind of use a little bit of this time to share with you some of the things that we're currently doing, but also to solicit some feedback from some of you. I know that some have already reached out already. Some of your district managers have also reached out with some thoughts. So want to kind of spend a little bit of time on this. Term limits. As you know, term limits go into effect next year. With thanks to John, and sorry, John, I'm gonna put you on the spot for a moment. We've sent all of your district managers language to help understand and help really be able to share that with all of your members. John, is it okay if I put you on the spot and just kind of walk it through really quickly?
Absolutely. So the charter revision that created these term limits decided to make your life as confusing as possible in implementing it. So we were not involved. We disclaim all responsibility. We were here to help you understand. A law change.
I voted against it.
Did not right. When you're looking at this, learning when individuals' terms expire and then they have to sit out a term before reapplying, the world begins. The easiest way to think about this is the world begins in 2019. BCE, CE, BCED, depending upon your convention for calendaring. 2019 is year zero, Jardel. And you begin from it. And then you look, okay, when did the members' first continuous full term start? So many people are appointed midterm, that doesn't count. Many people are on off years, that doesn't count. When we went through this entire process with the borough president, and we said, John Smith, John Joe, Jane Doe, Jim Doe, when did you get your first letter, your earliest letter, continuous, saying you are appointed to the community board for a full 2-year term? To date, you look at continuous service and the earliest time from 2019 or later, that individual got that letter. And then we say, what is the date on that letter? If the date is any time before 2019, we throw that letter in the trash. You look at the first letter that is dated 2019 or later, 2019, 2020, 2021. There'll be a number between 2020 and 2025, right? We look at 2019, 2025. If the letter says 2019 and they're still on the board today, those are the first individuals who will face term limits. Those individuals, they will expire next year in 2027. That means that they will have to sit out at least 2 years before reapplying on a community board. This is where it gets fun. You would think, oh, this is easy. We just go another year, another year, another year, another year. Hold my beer, no. The council, the charter review commission gave the individuals who were appointed in 2020 an additional term, so there wasn't too much turnover. So if you were appointed in 2020, like our esteemed Chair Meltzer, you get an additional 2-year term. So those individuals, if they were appointed in 2020, they can serve 10 years. So it is not the case that, we go 2019 first appointment, you will go in 2027. 2020 first appointment, you can serve until 2030. So those individuals do not expire until 2030. However, if you were appointed in 2021, you only get 8 years from your first term, so you expire in 2029. From there on out, you can just go linearly, add a year, add a year, add a year. So again, very confusing. We did not write the bill. We will be sending individual letters, but the key thing to keep in mind is world begins in 2019, continuous service. Looking at the earliest year, 2019 or later, on that letter for a full term appointment. If it's 2019, they expire next year. If it's 2020, they expire in 2030. If it's 2021 or later, you add 8 years to that year to find out when they expire.
Thank you, John. This has already been shared with your district managers. I will also share it with you. So that you have it. John did a really amazing job of trying to simplify something that's incredibly confusing. So just wanted to share that. And to add on that, just 1 second, if I can, and then welcome your thoughts. We will be sending individual letters to all community board members that, so they are aware of what's going on. That will happen over the summer after we do community board appointments. So please bear with us. But in the meantime, again, you can continue to reassure members that letters will be coming out from our office over the summer with, their specific dates. So you have that for your records. In terms of, one of the other things, and, aside from trying to understand term limits, I have heard a lot of feedback from you all, but also district managers in terms of institutional knowledge, right? What's happening? We're losing so many people that have been on the board for years. So just wanted to share with you some of the things that we're thinking about. And again, would appreciate some feedback. Happy to, grab a coffee at some point, email, and then we can briefly discuss here. So firstly, we've been working closely with the Civic Engagement Commission for the city on doing kind of a twofold process, so to speak. One around upskilling, right? So our newer members, being able to really make sure that they understand what are the policies as it relates to SLA, what's the guidance, what needs to be done, all of those things, and all relevant agencies. So these would be webinars, meetings with agencies, running presentations to really push out that guidance. This is what happens when you engage with the DOT. This is, where the community board fits in to the budget process, for example, all of those things. The second bit is more around sharing lessons learned and hearing from you all, board members, right? So identifying members that have a wealth of experience, whether it's in land use or housing or whatever the case may be, and highlighting those members to share about their experiences, to create opportunities to hear these best practices, right? And have really good conversations. This will also include, we're also thinking about things around more practical things, right? So leadership succession. How do you mentor people, right? So, when you're thinking about committees, maybe it's, the chair of a committee is someone who may be term limited and the vice chair is someone who has maybe a little bit more time. So all of those things we're thinking about and really appreciate your feedback on. The other thing that we've heard from some of you is around possibly creating a repository of some sort. We're still looking into that. That would be really to kind of collate, all of the guidance documents that many of your boards have created. And I've seen some really great ones, by the way. Just something, again, creating hubs to be able to share these best practices. And lastly, our office in particular, we're starting a lunch and learn series. I'm going to put in a plug, and it's for our chair and our DMs right now, but obviously we have other leadership training opportunities. And so tomorrow, for example, there's it's an online, it's with Independent Budget Office. All of the chairs and DMs should have received that. Please register. Again, an opportunity to engage and get the information you need. Obviously, it's a lot, and we're working with the other borough president's offices as well, because obviously this is citywide. But just wanted to share with you what we're thinking. Marquise?
Oh, just a question about the term limits was about, what about if someone, and I'm assuming if they don't maximize their 8 years, they perhaps step down and reapply, start over.
Yeah, so if they stepped down and resigned, and so there was a period where they were not listed as a board member, considered a board member, it only counts continuous service, they restart.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, that's just. Wasn't I just wanted to know, because also I've seen people go leave one board because they moved to a different neighborhood and apply for another community board, which, and that's why.
That would absolutely be a free good service, 100%. But Marquise is a lawyer, as you guys know.
Yeah, you said that before, I was like, I thought he was joking, but I'm not a lawyer.
Again, and then Tammy.
And I just want to confirm, but they can be appointed as public members in that period?
Good question.
Yeah, so public members are, well, I want to be careful here. Public members are not legally members of community boards under the charter.
So yes,
Okay, good.
that was my question.
Okay, great.
Are public members even in the charter?
The charter does contemplate the ability to have what are called public. I will call it public participants who can participate in certain elements of community boards, but they are not voting members, they are not appointed, they don't count for certain things, sorry, but they do vote on certain matters, but it's complicated.
They count as quorums in committee.
They count to quorum
Yes.
and they can vote in committee,
Yes.
but they have no
Yes, they can't vote in
standing.
full. Yes.
Right, they have no standing at the full board,
Yes.
only members that are appointed by.
The borough, borough
Yeah.
president or through the recommendation of the city council.
I know that.
All right, so not seeing any other hands on term limit planning. Again, just wanted to share with you some of the things that we're doing. Appreciate your feedback. And with that, we'll move into our community chair reports. If I may, I know that Bradley has to head out. Can I, if that's okay, if I can do Bradley, Leslie, and then we'll go around?
Yeah.
Okay, CB5.
Appreciate it, thank you. So following up on the conversation we had earlier, Penn Station is very much on our mind as well. We had a great presentation from one of our board members, which if you have any questions about any of the history of Penn Station, I encourage you to listen. It was very thorough and very helpful. So even for myself, who was working on it for some time now. But we're sort of trying to figure out how to grapple with this process right now and sort of this quiet before the calm before the storm when the RFP is officially or when the selection of the RFP process concludes, which we've been told is in May, but
May 4th. May 4th.
No, they released a date. I didn't see that because I knew it was in May and we were concerned it was going to.
May the 4th be with you.
Okay, good to know. So we'll be eagerly anticipating that result, let's say. Let's see, we issued a rare request for the SLA to review one of our operators in our district, who's been kind of a continual issue, let's say, in the neighborhood. So we've asked for them to review their liquor license because it was issued without community board feedback. And it's been one that's been an issue in our district, so.
Wow. Did you see the news on SantaCon?
I did see the news on SantaCon.
It was, they put the con in SantaCon.
Yeah.
I have been grappling with that organization since I first got elected in 2012. They are, you know.
Personally not a fan, but I don't know if our board's thinking
Well,
of
I
it.
mean, they're a bunch of folks on top of, you know, causing a lot of public, you know, concern around quality of life.
Nuisance, yeah.
Yeah, not surprising.
We are in the process of conducting a member survey, so thank you to CB1 and CB7 whose feedback on that. We took I'll say we didn't copy, but we took a lot of inspiration.
I copied from Bev, so.
Yeah. So that's out to our membership right now to try and gauge, you know, membership satisfaction, feelings about their committees, and just trying to learn what we can do better from the people on the board and trying to capture the people who are outgoing before they leave us to get their feedback. We are also conducting under a task force related to commercial park use in our district, a survey right now in the district. So if anyone uses CB5 parks, please take the survey. We also have members, including our very dedicated Mike Kayback, who is out there daily, just stopping people in Bryant Park and asking them their thoughts with a clipboard. So that is out for, I believe, then we're trying to wrap that up by the end of the month, but we might extend that a little bit longer. And then we're also doing our own, speaking of budgeting, our own internal end of year budgeting numbers. We got feedback in terms of what remains in our district, in our budget, and trying to kind of project forward. And so I expect we'll discuss this at our next executive committee, but we'll probably do many of the things we did last year, which is prepay for services and try and hire a land use consultant for the coming year out of the funds that we have remaining this year. But one question I did have is we are looking to do some purchasing because we have where our office is going to be renovated relatively soon. Is the borough, can the borough president's office help us with purchasing on that? Because right now we're sort of just doing it as, you know, Joe Schmo off the street, but I don't know if the city has any sort of agreement with a particular vendor who might be able to get us better rates or, you know, purchasing under the city.
Let's follow up offline with Deirdre and our operations team, and we can get an answer for you.
Great, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'll be quick too. I have three things. I always try and do three things. but this is good because Penn Station was one of them, so I'll just go on to what Brad said and the same exact thing. And we only have like a little sliver of that, but it actually could expand depending on what,
Who knows?
tons that we don't know, but so exactly. The second thing is kind of hyper local. We had a few adjacent construction projects in our parks and playgrounds, and recently the scaffolding at one of them collapsed onto the play equipment, which was a pretty big deal. We had CBS 2 News there. It was thankfully kids were not there at the time, but it was literally the scaffolding was right on the play equipment. Again, no kids were there at the time, thank goodness. But there's a lot of talk about it. The news came out, so the full park was closed.
Which park? I'm so sorry.
This is Ramona Ponte, sorry, thank you. I should have said that right at the top. Ramona Ponte. So what's happening, the full park now is closed and we're trying to push through, when anything like that happens, there's a lot of different permits now we have to get from DOB for scaffolding and parks and all stuff. So we're trying to streamline that because the parents are really demanding that the parks open up now because of the nice weather. So I will say though, that the building owner has been very responsive, which is obviously, as you know, very helpful to a community board.
You need help from us with DOB?
I think we're okay. I think we streamlined it, but I will definitely, connect. But thank you for offering that. But just a cautionary tale to everyone. The second thing, way more complicated. I'll probably say something about this every single time I'm here. Our NYCHA is going through rad pack conversion, and I know there's a few the Upper West Side, but ours has demo. And that's where it's really getting sticky because there are rad packs that are going on. Or at least one that does not include demo, but this one is, the demo has really been tough. There's been a lot of misinformation going around. And I think that is adding to a lot of the narrative, whether it's a true or false narrative, but it's kind of getting us into that, back and forth talk. I think the uniqueness is not only there's demo, but there is market rate and luxury that's going to be built on this public housing site. So that is another very sticky wicket element. And Brad knows this very well as senator. I mean, it's really trying to navigate through some very, very tough dialogues with agencies, with tenants, with the greater community, with NYCHA themselves. So anyway, we were all waiting on to see what the new mayor would say, because we're like, how is this going to go with the new mayor? And now we see every indication is that he is for this. I mean, we don't really know exactly, but there is indications, some quotes out of his offices, people are piecing it together that he thinks this is a viable model going forward. So we want to thank actually the borough president's office on a very, very strong point. Brad's office and Jonah, chief of staff, connected us with the mayor's office, just so we can have like we were talking about NYCHA, right? The point of contact with NYCHA. And Brad, thank you so much. You connected us with the mayor's office and we're set to meet with them, I think next week, on just a small conversation, just to see where the mayor's office is on this type of rad pack conversion. I think it's going to clarify and crystallize a lot of things for us moving forward, because if we don't know where the mayor, I mean, that's going to be a big deal. Wherever the mayor kind of thinks on this is where it's kind of going to come down to very heavily, and we can navigate from there. So, again, that's our hope. I will come back because I know some people are interested here in different NYCHA projects, but I will come back and report what we, see from the mayor and the mayor's office.
And
Anyway,
just-
Brad, you're probably talking to the same people.
Yeah,
as
no,
well.
just to follow up, that.
Because we don't know, right? We're trying to,
Well, I think.
well, you
they-
might know.
Yeah, I mean, well, you'll learn, and I can't speak for the mayor's office, but, they, the project is proceeding, but with guardrails, new guardrails in place, I would describe.
Okay.
They want to reengage legal aid, for example. That's been a request on the part of elected officials, that the tenants have better legal counsel. And understanding the transfer from section 9 to section 8.
Yeah.
They want to have a meeting that the elected officials all urged that the mayor's office organize around financing. So you feel confident about and knowledgeable rather, not just confident, so that we all understand the financing moving forward. And then the third thing is that they wanna ensure that there is greater transparency in the process. And one thing to think about, and I'd love your input at the appropriate time for those of you who have rad packs. What should be our role as like, how do you share best practices and experiences with, some of our Upper West Side boards that are gonna have rad packs? I think that might be useful for this borough board in some fashion. So I'd love after you have that meeting, think about if there might be some collective action. There's a broader tenant issue, but boards play a big role because a lot of the construction is not impacting just the tenants, because as you know, it's gonna impact
Yeah,
the
the whole,
wider.
so Gail Brewer actually has, so Gail Brewer on Upper West Side, she has, I think quarterly, just NYCHA, meeting with the community and the police.
Yeah, that's not just Gale, that's all of the elected officials.
Yeah, well, I know we don't have that in our.
We don't have that.
Yeah, in our.
Yeah,
district.
NYCHA organizes that,
Oh, does it?
the NYCHA tenants organize that, right?
Okay, so I've been to that only because we have a small.
So you would like something
Well,
maybe broader.
well, what I was gonna say is that you guys are going through a rad, right, a rad pack,
And
but
several.
it's just not as charged because, I mean, it is charged because it's a rad pack, but not as, because there's no, the demolition.
They don't
aspect
know
of it.
yet.
We're also very
Oh,
early.
is that true?
Yeah, so we don't
I
have
expect
like,
there'll be more demolition.
yeah, you don't.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, you have
That was
developers
there.
picked out, you have plans released, we were in the like, oh, this will be coming, let me get your
Oh, I
feedback.
know.
Yeah.
So there might
We'll
be a
get much
demo.
more contention.
Oh, gosh, well,
And there's certainly contention.
Yeah, we already have.
Yeah.
Without that.
yeah, without it, yeah.
The demolition is just a matter of like, these buildings are so decrepit and old and, full of lead and asbestos that, the developers are like, this is a tear down. And that's why the financing issue is so
Yeah, it's-
important. It's like, demonstrate that it actually is cost effective to actually demolish. We want to know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, okay, we'll connect then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But I guess, so it's an open question, like,
Yeah,
what role do you think we can play as a borough board? I'd be interested to know.
Can I say to Adem's point really quickly earlier in the conversation, I think there are three different sections wherein we maybe play a role. When there's first notice that somebody might be moving to Red Pact, when that construction is underway, and then the fully converted developments. So those of you who have fully converted developments in your district, we have heard that there is not appropriate oversight of the management companies, and we've asked NYCHA several times to outline their protocols and their standards for when they step in, when the managers aren't operating well. And so that's another area where we want to make sure there's attention and follow-up, right? We don't just drop the case when the conversion is complete, then there's a whole new type of oversight process that is true.
I know, we really appreciate that, thank you, because but thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, and just kind of to close on that, to the borough president's point around opportunities to share, just want to highlight CB7. I think you've done a really great job of creating, a subcommittee where they're working very closely with NYCHA residents and building that collaboration more. I know that when I, gone to some of those meetings, they're incredibly thankful for CB7.
And honestly,
They're-
CB4
Mhm.
has done a tremendous amount of work in being the watchdog at the local level for the Chelsea.
We just created a working group, but it's internal. I just, in January, when I became, it's internal to the CB, just to see where we are as far as communication and agencies and,
And your prior chair did tremendous.
Great, Jessica is wonderful, I mean, wonderful, opening it up, and we're gonna try and continue that. I was just very impressed with the Upper West Side and how they had everyone at the table, not just for red tack conversions, but just all NYCHA kind of hot points, safety, tickets, things like that. So,
Yeah, I can,
Thank you.
maybe we should follow up after that. I can speak a little to what that process has.
Okay, that would be
has
great.
been, like what has worked and some of what hasn't worked in that.
yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, CB6.
Thank you, John
Thank you for joining
Keller,
us today.
Sandy McKay, Sandy certainly sends her regrets at not being here today. I'll just put my comments into three areas. First, a couple of resolutions that we recently passed and that have some impact, we hope. And one of the things we're trying to do is continually address the issues related to the closing of Mount Sinai Baptist Israel Hospital And recently, for example, we passed a resolution authorizing or asking the city to health and hospitals to provide $110 million to expand Bellevue's comprehensive psychiatric emergency program. And if any of you don't know Bellevue, and speaking as someone who spent 8 hours in the ER there one afternoon, it is an amazing place. Do not underestimate how fantastic this hospital is. So that's the second thing we've been thinking about a lot about is there's a school in our district, Salk School of Science, which is being going to have to move because there's another excellent elementary school that needs to expand. And we have wide support within the district for keeping Salk in the neighborhood and keeping it as the entity that it is. Council members Maloney, Epstein, and former council member, now Assembly member Powers all spoke at a recent meeting of ours in support of that. So that's certainly very much on our mind.
We met with the families and have been supporting how finding alternative spaces, which has been quite the difficult.
Yes, it's quite an engaged group.
Yeah.
And I will say it's a perfect example of how a community should engage with the community. They got our attention in a very, very real way. So those are the issues I wanted to address in terms of red zones. We recently merged landmarks into our land use committee. And we did that because under new regulations, landmarks can now sell their airspace much more easily. And we feel that landmarks belong more in land use at this point, that we know other boards take different views on that. Second thing I'd like to talk about is the term limits. I remember vividly, then Borough President Brewer came to one of our board meetings after she finished her borough president's report, left the podium, came back as Gail Brewer, resident of CB6, and said I'm opposed to this. Gave very clear reasons for doing so. We're doing 3 things to address this. First of all, we have an ongoing, Sandy and I have put in place with Jesus Perez, a mentoring program. When new people come in, we try to build a sense of community among the new people. The second thing is we're actually building for handbooks for chairs. One of the things we've really learned is that it's not intuitive how to run a public organization or part of a public organization. We have to help people do it. And if they make mistakes, it's our fault that we didn't help them. And the third thing is we're going to do a handbook for each committee to institutionalize the knowledge. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And the third point is just some general points. If there's time for people's comments later, we're interested in, we used to have a liaison with the mayor's office who would come to our meetings. Obviously, we have access to the mayor's office or any other boards. Does a liaison come to your meetings, and how is that working for you? We're also working on policies related to email and how it's stored and recovered, and that's a lot of weeds there. And the third thing is FIFA is a big thing in the city. It's obviously causing disruption at Penn Station and transportation, but also, there are things that people want to do with bars and having open carry, not in terms of a firearm, but in terms of a drink, walking around talking during FIFA. But very little of that's been communicated to anyone. So we're wondering if anyone else has heard anything about it. So those would be the 3 items.
Thank you so much for that. On the kind of the leadership and handbooks and stuff, certainly welcome kind of continued conversation on that. As it relates to engagement with the mayor's office, there is an office of mass engagement. And so one of the things that I have on my list to do is to kind of help establish and kind of foster those relationships a bit more, so that there is a representative hopefully attending.
And Mary, like when it comes to continuing education of board members, resolution writing, skills on chairing meetings,
correct,
Robert's Rules of Order.
Previous
borough presidents' offices have had trainings. Once we select the new members, we will be having those trainings.
That is correct. And so, to your point, as you know, in previous years, the leadership training series that's been led by Porfirio, our deputy director for community affairs, that will continue. As well as these lunch and learns, so really ensuring that we're, as much as possible, getting that information out there to ensure that CBs are fully ready once term limits hit next year.
Thank you.
And Also, to make a preview announcement, we're gonna have a big cocktail party to welcome all the new community board members and the existing members at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in the Temple of Gender.
Wow.
Maybe in the fall, we're trying to figure out the date, like the best date for people in their schedules, but stay tuned.
Thank you. That's very good.
We're in charge.
Alex, CB7.
Yeah, speaking of museums, we have our full board at the American Museum of Natural History this next month, thanks to Brad. Really upping her game, went to New York Historical, American Natural History, so I think that has increased our people coming to the meetings too. It's a nice venue, get some access, that's good.
Good to see that that new what do they call it? Apex Stegosaurus, relatively new. Donated by Ken Griffin. Who has a $237 million, yeah, there. That's right. Ken Griffin.
Okay.
Griffin, right.
The DOT came to us, it's transportation for the 72nd Street redesign.
Yeah, what's the story on that?
They'll be coming to CP8.
Are you guys for or against?
Well, we passed a resolution for.
That's what I thought, but then I read something in I read something maybe in Streets Blog that there was some.
Well, I mean, there will always be some.
Yeah.
Agitation.
Well,
We're there.
the Upper East Side is not happy.
Okay, make it up.
Could be close.
Yeah, so we passed the resolution, it'll go to full board, and they talked about CB8. So that'll be interesting. I would say in general, DOT is suddenly very responsive and helpful. They removed a bunch of news racks, which we've been complaining about for a long time. I don't know if everyone else has like random news racks full of stuff that falls under their jurisdiction. So I don't know what has happened. I don't know if that's for you to say thankful for.
Well, I think
they're very
new
responsive.
commissioner.
Yeah, new commissioner.
He's
Feel different.
He's very focused on being responsive. I really do appreciate that.
We passed the resolution formalizing our negotiation with Xtel on the ABC site. And so now I and SEMA are actively negotiating with Xtel. And I think it's going well-ish, although part of the question now we're talking about is papering the deal. I know lots of people previously had feedback about, oh, it's impossible to hold any developer to task about that. So they will be paying legal fees, we're picking a lawyer. But
you're hiring a lawyer?
Well, we are hiring a lawyer who then Xtel will be paying for as part of our negotiation. But the question is, how do we paper this such that it's enforceable?
Well, you should be in touch with John,
the lawyer, right?
And obviously Gail had lawyers at her beck and call.
That's it.
Great, thanks, Alex. Valerie's not here for CB8, so.
Let's talk about
Right, I'm here.
Be aware.
Good morning, everybody. As Brad mentioned, I will be up at Columbia today with Brad and others talking about reopening of the gates at 116th Street.
What are your like main points that you want to make to the broader community, to us, about that issue?
It's just drastic inconvenience to people because subway stops on 116th. Broadway, if you have to go to Amsterdam, you have to walk 2 blocks down, 1 block up, blocks up. And we have a lot of a senior population in the area that. Now they are giving out QR codes, you have to, register for that, but it's not quite the same. I'm in that area a lot, and to walk around is really a problem. And I think it's been long enough, it's been quite some time. And I think.
How long? 3 years?
I think it's 3 years now, yeah, so
We've also heard from a lot of small businesses that are saying that they are really suffering. When I was at CB9. They were really suffering from the lack of people walking around. Everybody's making a different subway stop now.
Going to Amsterdam and store, you're like, I'm not gonna walk all the way around. Yeah, I'm just gonna find something nearby when I get to where I'm going, as opposed to walk. And it was just a nice thing to walk through campus too. This time of the year you walk through, it's beautiful, so. We'll keep pushing that as well.
And frankly, inspiring, right?
Yeah, it's one of the best walks in Manhattan.
Yeah.
But it's also access to like a level of higher education for students to be able to see that, to be able to experience it, sit on that green.
Funny you say that. I often tell young students, in the nitrogen developments.
Yeah,
If you see it, you can be it.
yeah.
And they're like, I didn't know I could walk. Yes, you could walk in, or back then you could walk on campus and see students that look like you. And see what it looks like on a campus, right there in your own neighborhood. Why
Yeah.
not? So we'll keep pushing it.
How much public housing is that in that immediate neighborhood?
In the immediate area is Grant Houses,
Mhm.
which is fairly large.
Mhm.
And then, Manhattanville's just on the other side of.
Manhattan, yeah.
Manhattanville and Grant are right there.
Mhm.
With large populations. And we've often talked about, we have a community benefits agreement with them and scholarships, 20 undergrad scholarships per year to go there. But you want to see what it looks like. And, before that happens. So very inspiring when I've seen young students in classrooms that they've invited and they're like, wow, this is great. I didn't know, so we'll keep pushing that. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we have a building on West 153rd and Riverside that's 14 stories higher than permitted by zoning.
Oh.
We went to Board of Standards and Appeal this week. One of our board members is a former attorney to push back on the variance that they've applied for and what givebacks. Now, they're not going to tear down the 14 stories at this point. It's already occupied, but what can you give back to the community and for how long? Can it be, affordable housing or low income, as I use these days? That's always.
What
And
was
say again.
What was that?
620 West 153rd Street, 14 stories. And one of my questions was yet to be answered. Who was the inspector on this job and what actions were taken against that? What we're seeing is we don't want this to happen again. In our community, people aren't looking. We invited the developer years ago to come, never came, couldn't mandate at that time for them to come and speak to us. And then it goes up and it's an eyesore. As I've said in previous meetings, like a finger sticking up in the air in the community, because 11 stories is probably the max we have right now. And you see that from blocks and blocks.
And your council members heavily engaged in that issue, right?
To some extent.
Okay.
Yes, to some extent.
Well, let us know if we can be helpful and let us know, especially if Emily Bachman can be helpful. She was talking about. Emily, this is the building 620 West 153rd, which is 14 stories above permitted.
The one they already built, right?
Yes, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just seeing what leverage, what can we do,
Okay.
compensation, things along those lines. And it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nobody's looking, no, we're looking.
Yeah.
Packed Rad, Manhattanville Houses, we had a meeting last week regarding some issues there, helped organized by Niall Robinson, getting all. Getting all players to the table. The TA president had some issues with access to elevators because one elevator is shut down just for construction. Balconies are closed off, construction as well. During the very cold winter months, they were installing windows with people in the apartments when they said, no, can you do it another day? So just sometimes communication between the construction and the residents. So we're trying to work on more of that. And I keep reminding people that Section A is different from Section 9.
Yeah.
I had one resident in particular, didn't recertify, didn't sign a new lease, and then she owed, the rent went to max for that size apartment, $3,000 a month. And she was panicking, that home was full of it. So let's work it out. I said, you have responsibilities that you must take. Sign your lease, which we hadn't done that day, recertified, where to go, and take care of it that way. So just awareness, it's different. I've been living there for so long under Section 9, and now all of a sudden it's different. So just be aware. I try to push the TA to talk about that at their meetings, they get a decent turnout. So we'll keep working with them on that. I mentioned last time as well, Legionnaires' disease at 3333 Broadway. They're just about finished with remediation. They're going to be doing individual apartment testing, which we're looking forward to that. We've been really engaged with that. We have a lot of seniors in that building. That building is 5 towers, 1,000 units. And so far, so good. And the owners and the management company correspond with me frequently to let me know what's going on. So I applaud them on that.
And they have a new technology, right, that they're gonna use.
Yes, they have a new filter system.
Using what, what's it
They're
called?
using like UV light.
UV lights, exactly. Cause my thing to them, the building has one source coming in. Now, it might separate into 5 different. Once you get in there, but the source coming in needs to be checked. And that's where they're putting the UV filter. So hopefully it'll help.
Let us know if we need to follow up on anything.
And thank you for your leadership there, Victor.
Yes.
It wasn't easy, but.
No, there's some struggles.
Done a great
I've had dealings with the owners before, so we have a
I know.
relationship, yeah. Several different
Oh, we
things.
know them.
Yeah. Well, we know.
We know the family.
Oh, you know, okay, yes.
Yeah, they're responsive.
Yeah, they have been, I must say. 1727 Amsterdam Avenue is a supportive housing building that's going up. A lot of pushback from the community on that. We've met several times. HPD hearings this week. People expressed their pushback in not so much supportive housing particularly, even though my feeling is oversaturated. We have a family shelter going up 2 blocks away. We have a drug treatment center a half a block away. And we have another supportive housing 2 blocks away. So, and what insulted us was they said the area and the building was blighted. 1 block away, we have $2-3 million homes, brownstones. It's not blighted. The building is younger than most of the buildings in that area. So going forward, we're just hoping that the right thing is done there. We are pushing back against the developer and the management agent because their expertise is in running shelters, not in running supportive housing. We have other people that run supportive housing in the community do a great job. And we want more affordable housing. This has been pushed by some elected officials in the area as affordable housing. But they never mentioned the supportive part. So we're trying to let that know, but we're staying on top of that. We had a presentation on what to do if you're stopped by ICE. We did that in connection with one of the local churches and several organizations in the area. And we did it remotely just in case somebody came. And a lot of things we learned from that. I think people appreciate it, and that's something we're going to continue doing. Just we've had incidents at schools where people have seen ICE in the area and they panic. They're saying, this is what we can do.
Are we inviting community boards to our convening on?
No, but we can.
Would you, so what is it, every
month?
Every month we have an elected official convening about ICE. If you're interested, we can invite either board chairs or district managers or representatives to these meetings.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll make sure we get the
We're
dates out to you.
hybrid, we connect with different advocates, resource providers, and we have different topics each month, but the idea is to have sort of like a cross-pollination between these different groups, hear from the providers, what's going on the ground, what are their most urgent needs? Is it filing a habeas petition? Is it making sure that there are rapid response protocols in place? And then the electeds are there to share their own perspectives and hopefully manifest some of what we're hearing into legislation and proactivity from government. So I think it would be really valuable to hear from community boards who have a real close community sense of what's going on.
Last week, we had a health fair last Saturday. The new commissioner attended along with our borough president. We went from 10 to 4 p.m. We had a lot of different sections there, including a big piece on cannabis. We had on sexual awareness, sexual health, seniors. We had a youth component. A decent turnout. We're looking for more people. We had a decent turnout, and I think a lot was learned. We got great feedback from that. So that's my report for this.
What did he say about cannabis? Like, did he talk about cannabis?
No, we had 2 doctors on cannabis.
What were they saying?
Well, first of all, getting it from a legal dispensary and what if the drawbacks could be not doing that. And people using it as a coping mechanism when sometimes you need to go beyond that to get medical treatment and not to depend on.
I'm reading about like impacts that THC and CBD have on the liver, which are not discussed. If you're on a medication, it can increase concentrations of various medication in your liver and cause your liver enzymes to
they did speak about
spike.
that. Yes.
And cause permanent liver damage.
Yeah, it was good, so. That's my report, thank you.
Thank you. Marquise.
Yeah, I've got to be quick because I have to run. We're focusing right now. Housing, of course, is always the biggest issue in our district. Housing forum next Saturday. We have been doing some pressers
See you
and
there.
things like that. Yes. We have a lot of our elected officials coming, but also we want to engage the community in some meaningful discussions as well as education around housing and just, we're gonna have a lot of different things. That's a whole day, so that's from 9 to 3. We are also having our own, we've been having a lot of discussion around budget, so we're having our own public hearing around the city budget next 2 weeks, Monday, in which we're gonna inform some of our feedback that we're also sending to our council member and then share with Borough President. We have, this month I participated in a big public health forum at the Community School of Public Health, in which I discussed a lot of our issues around how the Community Board 10 had called for many changes around Legionella back in 2021 that were not enacted until just recently. And so it sparked a lot of conversation with the commissioner who's going to hopefully be back. He wants to be at our meeting, general board meeting this May. But really, we talked about how the public has to be, or community has to be more involved in what is meaningful public health. And so that was with both the commissioner and the deputy mayor on public health. And so that was very good, and it's led to a lot of conversations with our commissioner. One of the other things Community Board 10 is also focusing on right now is that there's a major public health lab coming to our district with Hoylman-Sigal that's being built or being completed. We submitted last year a request and had wide support. We sent this to everyone, mayor, borough president at that time, and the governor, asking for that building to be named in honor of Dr. Hazel and Dukes. We believe it is worthy of it, and the city has been slow in responding. They said it's unprecedented to name it a certain way, so we are going to step up our efforts and following up. We're hoping to have the support, and then I can share this with you.
We would love to weigh in on that.
Okay.
And send a letter. So who is it to? Health and Hospitals?
Yeah, it was Health and Hospitals, because Dr. Dukes was very impactful to making sure that came to Harlem Hospital. And so we are looking now to really step up the pressure as the decisions have not been made yet, but we think it would be an amazing honor. As well as we are in the midst of, one thing we announced prior to, there was a group of us on the community board prior to Dr. Duke's passing, literally the day before. We had put in a proposal to name the school in which I taught after, the campus after her, and that is now coming to fruition as well. So we are trying to make sure that there are several things in place in honor so that her legacy in our district.
Something also to think of is even if it's a very local issue, obviously this has a broader impact. The borough board can pass resolutions, and that's, again, goes to the point I was trying to make earlier about the credibility of us as a body. So maybe that's something you want to put on the agenda.
Okay.
And we could send a letter to the appropriate agency.
I'll try to have that.
Confirming your community board's position on that.
Okay. We would, and I will definitely move toward that so that hopefully in May we can do that. The last thing we are, I'll share is that we're having a small business fair that we wanted to do in Community Board 10. We just secured in front of the state office building on 125th Street. So we want to do that outside in June, in which we're working now to get as many small businesses to really showcase to our community, so that's something that is in need of support.
Let us know how we had a youth fair there last weekend, but anyway, we can be helpful.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Adele, thank you, Marquise.
I don't have too many things, but they're kind of detailed. On Rad Pack, I'd like a meeting with the mayor's office too, if possible. We're going through a couple conversions right now. We have a ton of NYCHA that could be going through. We had the rental ripoff hearing, which I attended. I thought it was okay, to be honest. I thought there was a NYCHA protesters outside of there. I think the sentiment was coming into East Harlem and not really having a lot of NYCHA representation there. There was one little table. I also know that the mayor's office went to certain apartments in the community to kind of see the conditions. There was no community board involvement with that. I find it very disheartening. As I sit around this table, I hear a lot more engagement with the other boards, and I don't really see it with ours. And I'm trying to fight for that more.
Let us know, like, obviously, we saw each other there at that. That was focused on private landlords. They've made that very clear that their rental ripoff hearings are not NYCHA. But at the same time, any way we can amplify that message. I thought, so they specifically did not. They think NYCHA is this whole separate issue of public concern versus private landlords. So that's why they had such a small presence there. But I will say, what was cool about it is that, to have tenants, to have face-to-face meetings with commissioners about their apartments. I've never seen that.
No, I'm not gonna bash it completely. I
think you're right, though, about NYCHA needs.
It might be good to have a hearing of its
Yeah.
own, some kind of, and have us support it.
Yeah.
We would.
Sorry, excuse us. I'm now just mentioning to the borough president that our office is actually, we're gonna be hosting the annual NYCHA brunch in June, where we will be engaging with the NYCHA leaders to have a lot of discussions, so.
Are we inviting community boards?
We're in on that soon, but I think that would be a great idea to also invite community board chairs.
Okay, and then on private landlords, I think Emerald Equities, there's a bunch of apartments going under foreclosure in East Harlem. And the mayor's looking for a buyer. I've already reached out to our council person asking about how the board can get involved in identifying who the mayor's office would want to see take over these properties. I think the challenges there are finding someone who can not only oversee the redevelopment or renovations these apartments need, but the relocations of these tenants in the meantime, and then ensuring that the management moving forward would be adequate. I think the board has experience with management companies and developers in our community, and so I think it'd be useful to have us at the table for that. So any help we could get.
So if you could specifically let us know, like how, like who you're dealing with at the city level, we can.
Not much. So that I think it's a cry for help.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on the ongoing Rat Pack, we have a few going on, but there's one at Jackie Robinson on 129th Street and Park Avenue. I've been really a thorn in the side of the management company. I was the housing chair when it started, and I don't think they love to see that I became the chair. But some of the concerns I expressed are coming to fruition already. I was pushing them for on-site security. Once they go through the transition, they said they would have it while it was being renovated. We're hearing from tenants that there are basically break-ins to apartments that are being renovated. They haven't had cooking gas in months. We have them coming next month to the housing committee to speak again. But it's a little bit disheartening. They basically, after months of going back and forth, just admitted that there wasn't money in their budget for security. And I think that's why I was asking for that oversight, to kind of understand what the financial model is that they're operating with, so that we have a better understanding of when they tell us there's no money, like how come, right? Where is this money going? How much money are you getting? How's it being allocated in these redevelopments?
Maybe this is another good opportunity for resolution from the board.
That'd be great. Then to the Second Avenue subway. It was interesting. We had a task force. We didn't meet for like over a year. And I just had a feeling we should be meeting, so I reconvened it, and we're meeting every month. We had the MTA in the end of March. Right now, the main issues we're seeing there's a demolition of 3 buildings near PS 96 on 120th Street. I think it's between Second and Third Avenue, right? Obviously. We were asking why they're not encapsulating the buildings near the school. There's asbestos in the school. I went to one meeting with the electeds the day before, and basically the MTA said, well, we're meeting the requirements. And that's, I guess, the bare minimum. That doesn't have to be encapsulated. They're doing it by hand, which creates less dust. The next day, when they came to the task force meeting, they said that they couldn't encapsulate because of structural issues, and I guess they have to like put scaffolding on it when they do this, and that would threaten the integrity and potentially collapse the building. I found it very interesting that the same people who were at the meeting the day before did not have that answer, but then came the next day and all of a sudden had an answer.
So what's the address?
It's PS 96. I don't know the address.
Twentieth and Third Avenue.
Second and third.
Sorry, hold
No
on.
problem.
Our subscription has expired. So we should follow up with, so that's MPA.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that.
Yeah, they bought those buildings and they're demolishing them, and it's,
Can we follow up with Jamie Torres Springer on that to see what the story is?
they haven't confirmed, if this demolition might also possibly happen while the kids are at recess in the schoolyard. So then I did get them to provide us their plan for this demolition, and I actually reviewed it, and my understanding now is that the first two floors will be taken down by hand, but then machine demolition will start at the from the third or fourth floor down, which then made me send an email asking them that perhaps the structural integrity goes away once you get to the fourth floor, and why can't encapsulation happen there? I think they're just allowing their contractors to keep as much money as possible, because that gets to my next point. With signage for small businesses, their messaging to us is that they keep lessons learned from phase one, south of 96th Street. Well, I don't see it. We have gates go up in front of businesses for weeks on end with no signage for their businesses. We're told, oh, this is happening quickly. I'm like, you don't know when you're putting these gates up to have the signs ready. Those businesses are there. These signs take a couple of days to make. The signs are total crap. They said that they give the contractor the option to pick which one they want. I told them at the meeting, well, obviously they'll pick the cheapest one. They just kind of laugh. I mean, we've literally had the MTA staff tell us, like, joke around, well, we're not from the community. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. That's what we really want to hear. The signs are no better. They're not doing anything better. I've heard, paying certain businesses a lot of money when they have to relocate them, some more than others, depending on who represents those businesses. In the meantime, though, the businesses that will be destroyed by this, that happen to be in buildings that the MTA isn't purchasing, are getting no financial assistance whatsoever, and they're gonna get destroyed. I'm hoping that our state electeds will push this forward. I think that'll be an uphill battle, though, because that would be money that they'd be asking the rest of the state senate or assembly to go to the governor and ask the MTA to give specifically to our community, so that could be a challenge, but we're pushing them for that. So it's an uphill battle. And then the last thing is the MTA is buying up, obviously, a lot of land. The ancillary buildings they're buying, I believe when it was south of 96th Street, they were able to go deeper underground, but here we can't do that, so they're building them up, but there's a lot of air rights.
Sounds like you need a meeting with the MTA.
Well, we've had it. The problem with the meetings is that we're just not in agreement with almost anything that's going on.
Well, who's been organizing that for you? You just had direct meetings with them, or?
Oh, yeah.
is it a council member, your.
No, we call them in. Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, you need to do it with an elected official.
Well, the Second Avenue Subway Task Force that we've put together. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, the board has been, as of like the last couple months, the ones fighting this the most, in my opinion, right now, in the community. And
sometimes it's good to do it with an elected.
Oh,
I know you know that.
We'd love to.
So if there's a specific, we should talk about maybe convening. That's the power of this office with your elected colleagues. Maybe we have a meeting here about all these issues.
I'd love it. And then the other thing is just all the air rights, what they're gonna do. We had Columbia University students come in. We're gonna be giving them.
If you could, again, I'm sorry, if you could put together like the topic areas that you want us to. And then we could create an agenda, invite the state and city electeds, we could have it right here with the MTA, I think it'd be helpful.
Thank you. And then, the last part on it is what they're gonna do with all this housing they're gonna eventually build on top of the land they're buying.
Yeah.
What kind of affordable housing, how much input is the community gonna have? So those are the topics there. That task force will be meeting every month. I will give the MTA credit. They come in. But, you know, it's, I'm not gonna, you know, mince words. Like, the fact of the matter is, I think people are afraid to say things that'll upset them. But like, at the end of the day, they're gonna do, if we don't upset them, then they're just gonna do what they keep doing, right? So, then the third thing is more internal in terms of attendance. So I had mentioned we had put this board oversight committee together. And one of the things we've been considering is how do we really effectively vote members off with bad attendance? We've struggled with that. We bring them in and we don't vote them off, right? They're people we know a long time. So we had this idea that we're going to vote to give people, there might be cases where we remove people, but there are other cases where members will be voted to give probation, but if they fail the probation, it's an automatic removal. So essentially, it removes members from feeling that they're voting another member off. You're voting to give them probation, that if they don't meet, then that's an automatic.
We should have best practices, John. I'd love to talk about like what that looks like in terms of a proposed maybe bylaw for all of our boards. Like, is there like a mandatory or I don't know, should there be a clause in every bylaw that points to automatic removal?
I want to be respectful of the community board's autonomy, but certainly the model language, they as a policy matter, believe that we could give certain examples and we could let them. Okay, but yeah, absolutely, we can provide model language that the community board, when they determine what's in their best policy interest, as they define cause and attendance, can choose to adopt certain language, should that be their policy goals. That's fair.
Great, we'll work on that together. Thank you, John.
And then
Final point of them.
we have Earth Day conference on the 22nd, next Wednesday from 10 to 2 at the Museum of the City in New York. You got the flyers. We have a job fair with the MTA, Mount Sinai, and Mega Development LLC, which is doing the development of Timbali Terrace. That'll
Mega Development LLC?
Yeah.
That's not like a joke?
No, I had to relook it up because last night when I was writing this. And then we have community garden walkthroughs beginning on May 30th and then every other Saturday and Sunday. And then we're doing a RAT Academy with the Department of Health, Mental Health and Hygiene at June 15th. From 5:30 to 7:30 PM at El Museo. So we have some events coming up. So that's it.
Thank you. A lot happening in CB 11. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Rosa, for being here. Anthony, CB 12.
So last month, we passed a resolution in conditional support of legislation pending in Albany to extend section 103A of the Public Officers Law. Again, that's the section that allows us to have hybrid participation. I know when you were a senator, you were a big advocate for it.
That was my bill.
I know. And now it's expiring, and it doesn't look like there's going to be an extension, but we're trying to support it.
Sorry, do we know the status of that hybrid?
It's the kind of thing where they wait until the last minute, I anticipate, Anthony probably has more recent intel than I do, but I would anticipate this be an accelerated discussion in the last few weeks of May versus.
So you want it extended, so there's more hybrid.
Yeah, that we provided conditional support, so we put into our resolution a number of items where we would like to see the bill that's currently pending amended. We do have, though, members of our board who work for state legislators, and right now the outlook isn't good. So we'll keep you posted if we hear anything different, but right now it doesn't look like it's being extended. We also had a public hearing at the end of March on charter schools. Community District 12 has 11 charter schools. The focus was primarily to get community input about what the perception is on charter schools. Because we have a charter school attempting to put up a new high school in our district, the conversation ultimately focused predominantly on that, even though that's not what the hearing was for. But overall, we had mixed views, and we circulated to our elected partners, including this office, a resource document and a one-pager on how it looked.
Who currently owns the space that they're trying to turn into a high school?
So it's actually a lot. There's no space on it.
Okay.
I don't, it's been owned by some private person for a number of years.
Years ago.
Yeah.
They need 2 additional. To.
We are in the process of finalizing our hiring of interns for the summer. We partnered with the City College of New York. They have 2 programs where they have they have fellows come and do internships with public bodies and they pay them stipends. We're really looking forward to it. I think I mentioned in one of my previous reports that the focus for one will be on policy and the other would be on outreach. We did an evaluation process for our staff. It was the first time in quite some time that they were evaluated. And we were actually working with providing inputs for CB6 on how we did that. I know Sandy had sent out an email. We were explaining how we're going through the process of providing merit increases for our 2 staff members who have not received them in a number of years. On outreach, I mentioned last month, we were attending a Minecraft event at a high school in our district that was successful. We thought it would be more focused on trying to talk to students about how community boards work and maybe even get some of them to consider being either a public member or a member in the future. What it ended up being more, since the students were focused on Minecraft, was more us talking to parents, which still we found successful. We are in the process continuing to update our website. We revamped our member hub, where we have things like our chair's handbook, a number of policies and procedures where we put our monthly reports each month, bullet points, et cetera, updates. We are lucky enough to have a member of our board who's a website designer. And so we've made the official decision that we are moving off of the City of New York's website.
You're moving off.
We are.
Good
So
decision.
we're gonna have.
We haven't used in years, it's great.
Yeah, I mean,
With autonomy.
there's only 4 of us that are left on the city site.
Yeah.
So we are, we're having we're designing our own website. And we're really excited about it. The early concepts look really cool. So great there. On attendance, we are actually updating our bylaws this month to reflect a decision of our executive committee last month. Our bylaws have phrasing that if you do not, quote, attend a substantial portion of a meeting, it counts as an absence. That was never defined. So we are now defining that phrase, so this way it's enforceable. We are also putting in a definition for late being showing up 15 minutes or later after the start time for the meeting. So more to come on that. And then lastly, we've had a number of, so we're lucky enough that our 33rd and 34th precincts, the NYPD in our district, haven't reported any major incidents this calendar year so far, but we have seen a spike in vehicle related issues. So we're trying to address that through a public hearing. And I noticed that in the report you provided us at the top of this meeting, residential parking was one of the primary recommendations of this office. We're gonna do a general public hearing on parking considerations in our district. For those of you who don't know, Washington Heights and Inwood is a significant area where people come from New Jersey or upstate and just drop their cars and then commute down into the Midtown or Lower Manhattan. So there are issues there, but we have not yet taken a position. We want to do the public hearing and then we'll see where it goes.
Let us know about that.
We will. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, CB 12. And then we have Tammy and then CB.
CB 13.
Sometimes I feel like 13.
Tammy, and then we'll go to CB 2 online.
Obviously, I want to say thank you first and foremost to the borough president for coming to the Battery. Awesome. If the argument about the fences for the last 20 years, there's been a 4-foot bicycle rack type fence so people could see over it. They erected a 7-foot fence. No one can see over it, and it's a chicken wire fence. We're not debating that you need security. We're debating what's there. There's a difference. And in terms of accessibility in the public, right now you're at a point that if you would like to see the Statue of Liberty, it's a pay to play. If you want an unobstructed view, that's it. And that will be there for 2 to 3 years. So it's not a good thing. I love the conversations about affordable housing and what's going on. Last month, I announced World Trade Center 2 was being taken by American Express. We were very excited about that. I want to thank Alicia Glenn, who spoke up at the LMDC, because it turns out that 5 World Trade Center, which is supposed to be the affordable housing and housing building, and one of the community wins, was not inked. It was promised to the public. And while American Express and Silver Sand have a very lucrative agreement for two world trade, and indicative that the market's actually rebounding since COVID and where we are 25 years from 9/11, and those of us who have all helped build it, we want affordable housing. All the 421A for the most part is gone. We worked out a deal, we had everything, and the claim is really that, well, the design can't really change because it has to be contextual, but the affordable housing components can change. And I'm kind of like, well, you're building a building, you could lower costs for materials, like we've had conversations like this, but it's really very antithetical to the recognition of how far we've come since 9/11 to have the residential building with affordable housing being told, you know, the math might not work, especially after City of Yes, the affordable housing fact. I mean, like, it's beyond hubris by the Port Authority to not actually do it. And we try and work with them daily, and this just really sticks in my craw. We want to appreciate the conversations about land use consultants, because we had recent authorizations. This, again, is about housing. And under the new City of Yes, and the rules that have come before CB1 on our applications, they haven't included affordable housing. And in fact, there seems to be, in the most recent hearing, DCP is questioning, picked up on some of the problems with the new laws and the rulings that are allowing for bigger buildings because there's not clarity in the information. So I'm happy to brief and go on with that, but we had to hire George, and grateful that we hired George Janes to really help us through this complex process, because it's different. And what we were told when they came and presented City of Yes to what the final inked deal is extremely different. And so we're not going to see any benefit in our estimation for affordable housing. And that is just exhausting. We have started interviewing for a part-time land use consultant to try and work with us, because since.
Yes, and we are going to be following up on getting land use expertise for every community.
That'd be amazing.
This is something that, again, Scott Stringer did that. It's kind of fallen off over the last couple of decades. We want to reinstitute it.
That'd be great. We find that there's interesting changes going on in the city. You know, we have a lot of historic districts. We want a contextuality to support new concepts coming into a historic district, but not to completely break the rules of the historic district. And there's a lot of conversations that don't seem to be making a lot of sense about, well, it's new, it's fun, it's flashy, but it's a historic district. So we have concerns about the changes that are going on at Pier 15. We gave our landmarks resolution last month about the changes, some of the changes sought for Pier 17 as well. We want to celebrate a drone cargo pilot that was done at Pier 6, really interesting. You know, they're trying different kinds of pilots, including we have one coming up soon about eVTOLs. You know, electric helicopters make significantly less noise. They don't need to be rotating when they're on the ground. So we're excited about those kind of innovations coming to see what happens with that. We supported a New York City DOT micro hub location. We gave public comment, and then the resolution failed at full board. And that's really not typical for us, but I want to point out why. Amazon was being offered a pilot for $2,000 for 80 foot of street space. And the key is, in the same month, an article came out that they owed millions of dollars of parking fines. And so the board felt that, why would you offer a meaningless amount of money to a pilot for them to be able to do on-street, you know, distribution when they still owe the city money and they can afford it? So you're rewarding bad actors with incentive programs. So it didn't actually pass. It was, and I don't think it was the micro hub in its use. It was about the giant retailer, who is a for-profit company, could pay a better fair share for a pilot and should pay their tickets first. So unusual. We see Sammy's Law starting to roll out, which is really nice. We would like to see a change in how that process and the rulemaking works, because it's a little odd. We got a request for a tiny school for Little Street. And at the end of the Little Street is a much, much bigger school, and it wasn't included. So I think a more holistic vision, they said that the community boards could suggest locations and work with, but we're an understaffed and underpaid. I do think that maybe there should be some kind of a better system to take.
There is a metric, right, Esther?
What?
For lowering speed limits around school zones.
Yes, I don't remember what the DOT specifically said. They said they have some standard that's indicating how they're rolling it out. And the ones that have been announced are not comprehensive. There will be more coming. We just don't know.
Yeah.
If you want us to advocate for a certain location, please advise.
That's me, I apologize. We're gonna look at all the schools in the neighborhood and just send them the full list of here are all our schools and this is what they'd like. So I think that would, LMC, there's been a lot of noise in the news lately. LMC is a beloved middle school who has been looking to expand for a decade in our neighborhood, and the school that is above them went out of business. They have a tiny hallway to get all their students in, and there's a conversation in the PEP and CEC arguments back and forth about a new AI high school going in the space instead of expanding the middle school that wants to be expanded, and how the overlap in multiple schools in commercial buildings. It's not working. We supported LMC, that we would like them to be able to expand to a high school. We need high school seats. We need the AI school. We found 15 locations in the island of Manhattan that it could go. And so we could have both. And what we don't really understand is why the conversation is always my way or the highway, and why we can't support both communities and build everything when there's space for everything. For those who are going to be down by us in May, it's going to be a wonky month. I really hope that you enjoy the 5 Borough Bike Tour, the Bloomberg Run, the American Heart Association Run, and then we have film shoots. So if you're in the Financial District and the Civic Center, it is going to be really busy. Make sure you check your apps before you come down to know what's going on. And then lastly, we had some questions and concerns about the DOT and SLA changes for dining out program over FIFA. We know that these temporary things set a precedent for a larger portion, which includes the Olympics, because the Olympics will have a portion in New York as they move cross country and other things. In mixed use communities, which ours is for the most part, telling people that you can have bars close down the streets outside their residential homes to run and watch games that go till 4 o'clock in the morning is not necessarily what I would call balance in the city. We want to support all the small businesses. We want to support people enjoying in tourism, but you need to have a balance, because once you open the door, it's a precedent. And with that, thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. All right.
So we need help with my portrait. I will take your,
Yeah, let's follow.
that's okay. I'm happy to share everything. That is just. Yeah,
we can set up a time to discuss.
Man,
Really quickly,
is
John?
LNC going to pass this month?
Yes.
I think so.
Thanks, thank you.
Yes, I know you know. I believe they are.
It's on the
And so-
29th.
And I believe we are as well.
So we're moving to adjourn.
Great. Yes, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, it's our second by. The meeting is adjourned at 11:13 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Great meeting.